Storytime. Ooh, I know y'all missed that. So I was just here chilling in my car like so, and my break was about to be over, so I walked out of my car. And at the time, this car was not here. Anyways, as I was doing that, this lady pushed her shopping cart into the empty parking lot. And apparently, me opening the door to get out of my car scared her. And she literally yelled at me. She yelled at me. For what? For what? She really said, "You gave me a fucking heart attack. You don't sneak up on people like that." Then she literally just started going on and on and on about how you don't scare people. And right before she walked away, she really said, "You're lucky. I could have hit you." Like, bitch, I wish you fucking would. I didn't even say anything. I was just shocked at the fact that I was literally getting yelled at for walking out of my car. Like, please, bitch, I wish you would have hit me. I could have sued you for that motherfucking Mercedes that you were driving. Missed opportunities. Anyways, right when she walked away, the cart started rolling towards her car. And literally right before it hit her car, I grabbed the cart because I'm nice. Hear that, Karma? Anyway, she looked at me with disgust and she was like, "You didn't have to do that. I would have grabbed the cart." I walked away and I heard her boyfriend go off on her for being rude.
Story time about how I'm still in love with my toxic ex. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. This is really complicated, but please hear me out before you start judging me in the comments. Ex and I dated for exactly 1 year. When we first met, he was super charming, cute. I mean, he was like the perfect boyfriend. My family loved him, but gradually he started changing. The more serious we got about the relationship, the worse he became. For example, at the beginning of our relationship, we always used to hang out with our friends. And sometimes I would hang out with my own friends on my own. But 2 months into the relationship, he began guilting me. He would tell me that I would rather hang out with my friends, which wasn't even true. And then I would end up staying home, and then he would go out with his friends. He would also tell my parents sometimes that I needed to be taught lessons, like how to respect men and stuff. My parents detested him. One time he came over for Thanksgiving and basically told me that I needed to go change my clothes. He even said that I looked like a whore in front of my cousin. After that, my cousin really hated him and began doing her own research. She found that he was liking girls' pictures on Instagram and that he was leaving dirty comments on their pictures. Once she found all this information, she told me and I confronted him. He told me that he had every right to comment on anyone's pictures because it was just the internet and it wasn't real life. I kind of had to accept what he said because I didn't want any more problems. I asked my cousin to stop searching stuff, but she just didn't let up. Almost every single week, she would send me screenshots of things that he'd comment on girls' pictures. Finally, I told my boyfriend that my cousin had found all this out, and he basically forced me to cut her out of my life. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would I stay with him? But when things were good, they were really good. He was super loving, affectionate. He always wanted to be with me, and he always prioritized going on dates and having fun. He would always surprise me with fun things. One time he planned this beautiful picnic, and we even stayed in the park and spent the night there. But then he would manage to ruin everything by becoming really jealous and controlling. My dream job was to work in marketing, and I just happened to land this internship at a really popular fashion magazine. When I told him I got the job, he acted really strange. He didn't even congratulate me. A few hours later, he told me that I was trying too hard, and that he didn't want a girlfriend that was going to be at work all the time. He also asked me how much I was going to be getting paid because he wanted to make sure it was less than what he earned. So in other words, he was jealous and envious at the same time. Then he insisted that I work around his schedule, so I could only work the days that he was working. Then he told me that if I wasn't spending enough time with him because of my new job, he would break up with me. I took that as the last straw. It was my dream job, but he was making everything terrible. While my entire family was so happy for me, I was crying in bed at night. The next morning, I woke up and texted him and told him that I didn't want to see him. He ran straight to my house. We got in his car to talk, and I proceeded to tell him everything I thought. Then he turned it all around and told me that I wasn't the girl that he fell in love with, and that if I didn't change, he would break up with me. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I'm still in love with my extremely toxic ex. After I told him that I needed him to change, he basically turned everything around and told me that I wasn't the girl that he fell in love with anymore, and that I was the one that needed to change if I wanted to continue in the relationship. And to top it all off, he kicked me out of his car. We didn't speak for about 2 weeks. During that time, I started at my dream job, and everything was actually going pretty well. I didn't have the pressure on top of me about him not wanting me to work, and my life was actually getting better. My skin started clearing up, and I even started losing weight. In other words, I was really happy. My parents and family were so happy too. But then I see that he starts posting other girls on his Instagram. I knew that he was doing it on purpose, so I tried not to get upset, but I just couldn't help it. Then I made a huge mistake. I messaged him and asked him if he still loved me. Then he called me and we talked on the phone for about 4 hours. By the end of the phone call, we were back together. And guess what? We even agreed to moving in together. I made him promise that he wouldn't be jealous anymore and that he would stop trying to control everything I did. He promised up and down that he would never be that way again. But literally 3 days later, he comes over super drunk, demanding you know what. I said no because my parents were home and I wasn't going to do that in the house with them. Then of course he starts threatening me again, saying that if I don't do it, I don't love him and blah blah blah. So I took advantage and I kicked him out of the house. Then he sent me an essay of a text message breaking up with me and telling me how he doesn't love me anymore. It's been 2 months since that happened. Once again, I'm doing great at work. My family and I are super happy, but I actually miss him. Not only do I miss him, I'm so jealous all the time because I see he's posting girls on his Instagram. I miss being with him and I miss having fun with him, but I don't miss always feeling scared and nervous. I even tried dating a few guys, but nobody compares to him. A few weeks ago, I went on a date with this really nice guy. We connected and went on a few more dates. I posted on my story that I was on a date and my ex went crazy. He actually showed up at the restaurant and told me to come out and talk to him. And I did. I literally left the guy that I was on a date with to go speak to my ex. He told me to leave with him and I said no. He grabbed my purse and threw it on the ground and told me that he would never speak to me again. 3 days later, he was back in my messages begging to see me. But the guy that I was on a date with actually really likes me and asked me to be his girlfriend. I don't know what to do. I love my ex and I want to get back with him, but I know he's crazy. But this new guy is really nice and really caring. What do I do?
I'm 49 and my wife Kelly is 46. We've been together for almost 20 years. We each travel frequently for long periods of time for work and family, so several years ago we decided to open up our marriage. This was originally her idea and I wasn't sure how it would go, but it's been great. It takes the pressure away from the time that we do get to spend together between travels. It took about 2 years to completely figure out the rules that work best for us, but it's been working perfectly ever since. These rules include that we're not required to tell each other who we're sleeping with unless we specifically ask, and we cannot tell each other who they can and cannot sleep with. We can discuss it, but in the end, it's only up to the partner involved. Last year, I started to become close with one of our neighbors, Sasha, who's 19. We started walking my dog together, going running together, watching TV together, and eventually doing more. We still haven't slept together because she wants to take things slow, which I'm alright with. Kelly's noticed that Sasha and I have gotten close, but it wasn't until last week when she found the receipts from gifts I'd bought for Sasha that she straight up asked whether or not we were together. Following the rules we'd set up, I said yes. Kelly got incredibly mad and started yelling at me about how Sasha was too young, even though nothing even started between us before she was 18. She ended up insulting me and calling me names, and I removed myself from the situation so she could calm down. Later, we had a calmer discussion about it. She told me to stop seeing Sasha. I reminded her of our rule and brought up the recent example of when I followed the rule even though I didn't like it. Last winter, one of Kelly's coworkers made a slightly rude comment to me in passing that prompted me to ask Kelly if she was sleeping with him. She said she was, and when I asked her to stop, she said no and I accepted it because that was the rule. I don't see how this is any different. Sasha is a consenting adult and has been for our entire relationship. I get that 19 is young and I probably wouldn't just go out and pursue some random 19-year-olds, but Sasha has lived next door for 10 plus years, so there was already a very deep level of trust between us. Then Kelly threatened to tell Sasha's mother about us, which I felt crossed the line. I told her that it was extremely inappropriate to take revenge on Sasha just because she's jealous of her. That set Kelly off again, and after yelling at me some more and storming off, she's been giving me the cold shoulder all week. I love Kelly and want to make things work, but this is getting ridiculous. I see that this has struck a nerve, but we set those rules together and they've been working for us for years. I don't see why suddenly she's unhappy with them. How do I pacify Kelly so that she won't tell Sasha's mother about us while still upholding the rules that we agreed on together? I've been married to my husband Thomas for 6 years. He has a chronic heart condition that made him suffer for years. We have 2 kids together and he adores them but couldn't be with them all the time or do normal activities together due to his condition. I work to be able to pay for rent, expenses, and medical bills, which is the hardest. It's been like this for years. Thomas's health is greatly declining and we recently were able to get him a device to improve his heart function, but it's not a long-term solution. Lately, Thomas has been asking me or the kids to sleep in bed with him. Before that, he used to sleep alone for medical reasons, including using his catheter or having medical devices in his hand and chest. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks and said he missed me and the kids, although I was with him often. Last night, he was talking to me about what the kids told him they wanted to become when they grow up. He took his time to talk because this was a highly emotional moment for him. He kept telling me that he knew he wasn't going to witness how our kids will turn out and what they will become when they grow up. He said he'd be lucky if he could attend their next birthday, which I admit could be an exaggeration on his part, but I let him vent out what's been bothering him. He then started talking about us and asking me what I would do if he passed away. Those questions I couldn't find an easy answer for, but he proceeded to ask if I was going to start over with someone new. He pulled my face close to his and said he wanted me to promise to never date anyone after him no matter what. I don't know why, but I froze in my place. He kept looking at me and telling me to promise him in front of our kids. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel hesitant. I had a very odd feeling and something told me not to do it, especially not when he decided to get the kids involved. I pulled away and assured him that he's the love of my life and everything I care about as well as our children. He got upset saying I was avoiding his request and said he didn't expect me to even hesitate, let alone refuse to promise. I calmly explained how heavy his words were, but he said I probably had no problem seeing and dating someone else and might as well get the kids a new dad. I swore I never forced my kids to call someone else dad and he flat out called me a liar to my face. This made me speechless. He loudly told me to get out of the room. I tried to get him to calm down, but he started yelling at me to stop talking to him after I made it clear that he didn't mean much to me. He said he's going to make the kids promise that if I ever meet someone new, then they should cut me out of their lives and stay with his family. I was in shock and I called him unreasonable for thinking this was an acceptable thing to do to our kids. He said I should be happy the kids will live with their grandparents and not some guy and get married to. He kept insulting me until I broke down crying. He asked me to leave the room and threatened to pull his cannula if I stayed. I left because I didn't want him to get himself hurt over an argument. I felt so bad to the point where I wish I said yes to his promise if I knew that he was going to react this way. Everyone keeps telling me to have some grace and be patient because Thomas is dealing with so much right now, but they keep forgetting that I'm struggling too. I'm not sure if I can take it anymore. What should I do?